Well, hello. How are you? Good December 7th, everyone. I hope you are doing just absolutely, positively wonderful. I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I am too. I was genuinely having just a fine old evening. It is my youngest daughter's birthday today. She has turned 15, so good job at staying alive. 15 years, Rose, and quite wily like your old man. But I hope you guys are doing just swell. I can't complain. Hello, Tommy, Jimmy, Tonka. So you guys are asking me about notifications. Here's the thing. Or not asking me, but you're talking about notifications. Here's the thing. Thank you, Jimmy. I will pass it on. YouTube does not and will not promote my channel. All right. Let's just say hypothetically, I woke up tomorrow and I had 750,000 subs. That's not going to happen. We're currently 1408, by the way. That's kind of nice, right? YouTube would not promote my channel. My channel is not general entertainment. My channel is not inspiring or informative. I say dirty words and so on my channel. So it would never, ever, ever happen. So YouTube has zero interest in coming back and making sure everything is working 100% with your notifications. With that said, this is not boo-hoo poor me. I am subscribed to some really popular YouTubers. I am subscribed to YouTubers who get millions of subs. And their videos get hundreds and thousands of views within a couple of days of being published. They actually make money on YouTube. It like gives them money. But the thing is, the thing is, they're not going to fix that anytime soon. They're not going to fix notifications. Now, here's something funny. Before Google bought YouTube, when I first got into YouTube, and you can subscribe, you can get notifications when they turn that on. I turned that on and I drowned in notifications, and I was subbed to like 10 channels at the time. You remember the old star rating system and the way the dashboard looked? Anyway, if you remember how that looked, that was the way that it worked. And I got notifications all the time, and then Google took it over, and of course Google ruins everything they touch. Google is an objectively evil, I mean capital E, evil. They do evil things. They do bad things and hurtful things company. And I personally, I think if we could put them in the D&D alignment system, their philosophy is one of neutral evil. Like, follow the law, don't follow the law, just so long as we're continuing to create more misery, to grind people down, to destroy and control. And YouTube, unfortunately, belongs to Google. And I know what you'd say, go to Rumble, go to this, go to that. As I said, I have 1,408 subs that it's taken me a little less than 10 years to get. if everybody who actively watches my videos came over, I'd start with like 10 subscribers on those channels. So, but that's how it is, you know. That's life in the big city. So let's not dwell on negative things. It is Christmas. It is a time of miracles. And so, with that said, today is the 7th day of our Christmas Dice Advent. Now, I have to be careful opening this door because I didn't I did not pre-open this, so I gotta take a minute and very carefully the perforations. Okay, so if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're just stopping by for the first time, you're coming in from Twitter or whatever. My wife bought me this lovely Advent calendar from Do Dragao Gaming, and it is full of dice. I have been doing a dice a day for the Advent calendar. And if I have a single complaint, it's that the little perforated door things, you know how an Advent calendar works. They're little doors. Their little perforated door things are really, like, the perforations are not great. So I've been trying to do this without destroying the doors and ripping the paper, because I want to keep it. It's a nice looking box. So I'm kind of teasing this one open, and I'll show it on camera here in a second. So let's pull up the here it is. Let's pull up the what I call the tabletop view. That's just because what it's labeled. It's my little zoom in camera, and I'll show you guys. And we'll find out what number 7 is ourselves. So let's go to tabletop view. So this one says, Last Christmas is playing on the radio. Roll for performance. What, hand-to-hand combat performance? And the dice we have. Oh, look at this. It's a little Christmas ornament surrounding each die. Or are these pots of gold or bags of gold? I don't know. It's a little hard to tell. Oh, I see. Oh, they're lucky pots of gold. This is actually like a St. Patrick's Day Irish themed one. Let me go back to tabletop and see if I can zoom in on this one. So that's our dice. That's our seventh die, and let's give it a roll. What do we get? We got a 6. Splendid dice. Yes. So there's our die, and once again, we thank the folks over at Do Dragao. Now, this is not sponsored by them, but I did get a lot of swag, which we looked at Monday. I think they are bags of coin, Mobius. I definitely think they are. They're always after me, Lucky Charms. So if you came here for some hot Traveler role play, that we will be bringing that back next week, and we'll wrap up because it'll be, year's end. And I'm sure Kyle has something awesome in store for us. Now, as for me, as for what we're doing tonight, is just kind of open. It's just ask me anything, guys. We can maybe look at Unearthed Arcana, but I'm just chilling out tonight, just enjoying some holiday spirit. I got out today and I put up my Christmas lights. It's a little late, I know. It's only 3 weeks till Christmas, but I did it just the same. I finally got those up. When am I going to do an all-night show? Christmas Eve when he stays up to catch Santa. The 3rd anniversary show, which I will do in March, in the latter half of March. The 18th is when I did the very first ever, I called it the Crazy Gibberish, and it was just a live stream on Facebook to all of like 4 or 5 people. I think my wife was one of them here in the house. It was this little webcam and no lights except the ambient light in the room. I did have this mic, though, but it was on a tripod sitting on the desk. I am inviting the Peanut Gallery to ask me anything. That is correct. But it's been 3 years, and I get anywhere from 12 to 24 people watching the streams. And the previous 2 years, I did, I think the first anniversary, I did an 8-hour stream. Then the second anniversary, I did a 12-hour stream. This year's anniversary, the 3rd year anniversary, this year coming up, will be a 24-hour live stream. It may kill me. I may fall over DEAD on camera, but by gosh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it for you guys. And we'll be doing all sorts of things. Hopefully, I'll have lots of guests willing to stop by. I'm going to stay up and watch Krampus take Mama Susan away. Superman and the Hulk fight. Who wins? I'm giving it to Superman because he has the eye rays he can use as standoff weapons. He can slow Hulk down with his freezing cold breath. He could pick the Hulk up and hurl him into space, which I don't know that I think in the past when when Banner has been in Hulk form and been exposed to hard vacuum, he's kind of gone into torpor, but it doesn't kill him. So Soups I'm giving it to Soups. In a fist fight, like I'm just going to stand on the ground and try and outpunch you. The Hulk every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Now, one of my favorite comics of all time, despite how cheesy it was, of course, Secret Wars. Marvel put that out in not the summer. It was a 12-issue Maxi series that came out like 84 to 85 or 85 to 86. And it's notable because it's where Venom came from. And Venom begat Carnage and so on and et cetera. But Dr. Doom had gotten the power of the being the Beyonder, who's basically in the dimension he's from, he was God. He was the totality of everything in the dimension he came from, and then came into our dimension. Dr. Doom stole his power, and then to stop the superheroes that were there, which I think was like Moon Knight, the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, Spider-Man, the X-Men. he dropped a mountain range on them. And Hulk basically was holding it up on his shoulders. And I remember the cover of the issues. It was like a cross section. It was like all gray, striated stone. And down at the bottom is this little enclosed space. And all the heroes are like, they're just kind of compressed down. And Hulk is standing there and he's got his shoulders up in the mountain ranges resting on it. And at the top of it, the Secret Wars logo, and it says, under 200 million tons of solid rock stands the Hulk. And then right underneath the picture of the heroes, it says, and he's not happy. Didn't Galactus put the whammy on Dr. Doom? Not really. Galactus just more or less stayed out of the fight. Dr. Doom stole some tech off of his ship to help him fight the Beyonder, and the Beyonder almost killed Dr. Doom, but he was able to harness. That is, Doom was able to harness some of the tech from the world ship that Galactus had started to build, and then he absorbed the Beyonder and banished him temporarily. But I don't know as Galactus did much. I don't recall as Galactus did much in the comic. Hello, TJ. Yes, we're having just a final time talking about who would win in a fight, Hulk or Superman. I don't remember if She-Hulk was there or not. It was a strange lineup. Like, most people today would look at that lineup of heroes and villains and go, who are these people? Like, on the villains side, of course, we all know who Dr. Doom is, but then also on the villain side was like Molecule Man, who, by the way, is the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe. Molecule Man, Dr. Doom, Ultron, the Crusher Creel, the Absorbing Man. I want to say Sandman was there. I could be wrong. Who else? A couple of female supervillains who were just they were like, strength was their thing. So get down, kitty. Sorry about that. My wife's cat was looking for a way to get over here and stand on me. Unfortunately, the way was blocked by the keyboard, and Lord knows what would have happened if she had started walking on the keyboard. It could have disconnected the session or whatever. But anyway, Jimmy says, I think Soups wins because he could just toss Hulk into singularity or something along those lines. See, yeah. I mean, Superman, as long as he is standoff and willing to use his willing to use things to his advantage and not like try and outpunch the Hulk, he wins. That Molecule Man thing ticked me off. Didn't They Might Be Giants do a Molecule Man song? No, they did a Particle Man song, but it had nothing to do with him. No, Particle Man had nothing to do with Molecule Man. So if you don't know who Molecule Man is, maybe you came in a little late to the scene. Molecule Man was kind of a low-level villain who fought against the Fantastic Four. You know, it was the 50s or 60s, rather. Exposed to radiation, got his powers. Molecule Man basically could arrange anything on a molecular level that he wanted to. So if he wanted, you know, if he wanted to make a building appear out of nowhere, he could, just by concentrating, just by rearranging molecules. The thing about it is after his defeat at the hands of the Fantastic Four, he developed a serious inferiority complex. I'll tell you guys about the Monday Night AD&D game, sure. But Molecule Man couldn't get over this deep self-doubt. And that's good, because if you gave Molecule Man Victor Von Doom's ego, this would be Molecule Man's planet. Because anything he thinks he can make happen. He is singularly the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe. Anything, any matter he can transmute. He can create, he can destroy. You know, you put Molecule Man in a spacesuit in the middle of the Boetes void, he can scrape together enough atomic material that in a few days he'll have a spaceship. So that's Molecule Man. And Doom knew that, by the way. Doom treated him very nicely in Secret Wars. He quit being a villain and actually kind of did some good for humanity. Molecule Man did, because of what the Beyonder was doing in Secret Wars 2, when the Beyonder came to Earth. His act to liberate humanity was to destroy death. Like, he destroyed death. And Molecule Man freaks out and is like, you cannot set all of creation on an endless clock. There has to be entropy. Well, Brodo, I think that's a given. Chuck Norris could take them even without the third fist he can see. I mean, yeah, of course. We know that. Happy Christmas, Jay Eckley. Happy Christmas to you. So, anyhow, thank you for coming to my TED Talk on Marvel's Secret Wars. Oh, if it hit his wife or dog. Yeah. Oh, Norris. Yeah. I love how Norris enjoyed the memes so much that in the second Expendables movie, I think it's the second Expendables movie. He shows up, he single-handedly destroys a tank. He's got like a grenade launcher and destroys a tank, and it is literally just a cameo, and he's standing there on the wreck of the tank, and he's talking to the other Expendables, and somebody says, "I heard you died." And he said, "Well, I was bitten by a snake in the Gobi Desert. But after 7 agonizing, horrible days, that snake eventually died. Or something like that. I'm not giving it the same verb. Tigra, Robert Phillips knows. Tigra, yeah, it was Tigra. Again, you had some oddball villains. You had some really oddball villains in Secret Wars, just like, other than just being a complete waste of a good low-level Marvel villain on that absolute mess of a show, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, we've never seen anything from the Absorbing Man since then. You marked out in the theater when you saw Chuck Norris. Marked out. That sounds serious. Did you consult a doctor? The snake died. Chuck Norris fact 572. Yes. Thank you, Tonka. Thank you for saying so. I think so too. I think we've got a great community here. And if you're wondering why I keep grabbing my right arm, I've slept on it wrong, and it's just killing me right now. Mojo from Longshot. I don't remember as he did. I do remember Mojo, though. He showed up as Longshot's fuzzy little Lhasa Apso-sized sidekick, and by the end of it, due to things, he was like the size of a Type 6 demon and trying to kill Longshot by the end of the series. I see. Okay, I got you, Damien. See, here's the thing, Robert. If they wanted to bring the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and other Marvel heroes that they don't have into the MCU, Disney's MCU, now that they own Fox, and yes, they can have the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in those movies, it would be the perfect way to do it. The Beyonder wakes up, he gathers heroes from across the multiverse. And because reasons, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and any other heroes you want to bring along for the ride can't go home. So they're stuck in the MCU, and that's how you would do it, right? That's how I would do it. Or at least that's what I would do. I would go see that movie, wouldn't you guys? Yeah, TJ, unfortunately, I kind of agree with you. I think the MCU has run its course. I'm still kind of enjoying Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man. And you know what? I liked the most recent Doctor Strange movie. They let Sam Raimi make a horror movie, a Marvel horror movie, MCU film. So I liked it okay. I know people were very mixed about it, but Unicycle Peon, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. So Tonka asked about my Monday game. I run an AD&D game on Monday nights. I don't stream it, obviously, with a group that the core members of, well, there's one player who's been in that group since, you know what? No, I don't have my Roll20. account open here, but it has been going since 2017. No, I think it's 2014. I'll have to go look. I'll have to go look. But it's been going for a really, really long time. I have 11 players. I have had 14. But the folks in the 14 player game are the folks who made it a 14 player game. They kind of dropped out fairly quickly. I think they were a little overwhelmed at that, at such a large number of people. But we have a really good group. We have we have had some people show up, play, and then move on. But it wasn't always such a huge group. It was not always such a huge group. We started out, there were nights when it was me and 2 other players, or me and 3 other players. I remember I remember them all. And some of them played for a couple of months, a couple of weeks, whatever. Kyle played in it for a little while. We started out back when it was a small group of just about, 6, 7 players. And we had started out with first level characters. They went through the Village of Hamlet, not the Temple of Elemental Evil. I will never run the Temple of Elemental Evil again. I've run it 3 times, and that was probably 2 times too many. I'm not fond of the Temple of Elemental Evil. The Village of Hamlet is amazing. It's great. I love the Village of Hamlet. But so we started the group after Village of Hamlet. Oh, I think we just kind of had some side adventures here and again, but then we started the Slavers series, and I had an eye to run A1 through A4, and then at the end of A4, maybe an intervening module or 2, like White Plume, something like that, to get the party up to where I could run against the giants. And then the D modules, and then Queen of the Demon Web Pits, and call it quits. But we had a night, and again, this was back when we were 6, 7 players. We had a night when that group, most of the group couldn't make it. There were just like 3 people that were going to show up. And I was like, hey, we're going to play some D&D. So just quickly roll up some characters, and I don't know, I'll run the dungeon. I was just thinking I'll run the dungeon that is the monastery catacombs dungeon map from the Dungeon Master's Guide. Hey, Winter Wolf. I need to run Temple of Elemental Evil with a Cavalier and a Barbarian. Talk about three bad things that taste bad together. I'll answer your question in just a second. But yeah, so I ran, I just ran that as a side adventure. And the party that came in, or when the other players came in, they were like, hey, we want to roll up characters and do this too. And then when we're done with this, we'll go back to our other characters playing the Slavers modules. Good on you. We never went back to it. We never went back to those characters. So this group, or these characters that are just a pickup group, are now in the main campaign. Like the pickup group is now the main campaign, and it's been going for years and years and years and years and years. And I've run White Plume Mountain, a whole lot of Castle Greyhawk / Castle Delve, which is just populated out of my own imagination. Now, I've seen, like, if you dig around on the web, you'll find just quick images, somebody was using the old telephoto lens in the gaming hall sort of thing. You can see images of Gary's Castle Greyhawk maps. These are not them. I know what some of Gary's first level Castle Greyhawk maps look like. I'm never going to use those. My Castle Greyhawk is my Castle Greyhawk. So when people say, ooh, do you have the machine level? Maybe, or maybe not. Castle Greyhawk is one of those things that exists kind of in a quantum state. All right, Gary's not alive to publish it anymore, but there's reams of notes and maps and details and that sort of thing, but we'll never get to see them. So it exists in a state of both existing and yet not existing at the same time. Quantum Greyhawk. So yeah, they've gone through a few levels of Castle Greyhawk a few times. They've played White Plume Mountain. When I figured they were high enough level, I sent them up to White Plume Mountain to get Wave Whelm and Black Razor. When they got back from that, we had a couple of players change their characters around. There have been character deaths. Yes, there have been character deaths. So yeah, after White Plume Mountain, I just started, they came back, they wanted to continue exploring Castle Greyhawk. So there were a lot more opportunities, and there's been a lot of random stuff happen. I mean, the tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide for creating, like, hey, we're writing through this hex. Well, let me just roll here. Oh, look, there's a chance for a random encounter. Oh, look, it's a castle. And now I have a castle to stock. So that is kind of how I've done the whole, just the whole game, and they've gone from place to place. There have been many, many high adventures with the party. Let me tell you one most recent. So if I haven't told you this story before, if I haven't told you about this little part of our game, because like Luther is going to have an aneurysm. Listen very carefully when I start telling you guys this, because Luther's going to have an aneurysm and you're going to hear a pop when that vein goes. A long time ago, as a thought experiment, I thought, What would happen? What would happen if a demon were to put on a helm of opposite alignment and fail their magic resistance? The helmet takes effect. There's, let me see. Okay, all right. So there's no saving throw. So they put the helmet on, and I said, okay, I'm just going to assume that that their magic resistance failed. So now there's a lawful good demon. What does it do? Well, I mean, a lawful good being. It's not a demon anymore. And I kind of put this question to the role-playing game community at large, and I got many varied answers. Some people said it wouldn't work, it would stay evil. Others said it would work temporarily, but eventually they would fall back into their old habits. Other people said, they would explode. So on and etc. But the thing is, strictly by the book, it doesn't say, demons will explode. Truly evil beings will cease to exist. Demons are only ever this way. Yada, yada, yada. Once placed upon the head, its curse immediately takes place, and the alignment of the wearer is radically altered. Good to evil, neutral to some absolute commitment, as radically different from the former alignment as possible. Alteration in alignment is mental, and once affected, is desired by the individual whom the magic changed. So this is not like K2SO, where they're groaning and they feel like they're being forced. They become enthusiastic believers of the new alignment. And so I postulated that strictly by the book, a demon tricked or otherwise convinced to put on a helm of opposite align would still effectively be the same being, but now with a lawful good alignment and a desire to get the hell out of the abyss. So I introduced a mechanism for that to happen in the game. I had an evil magic user gate in a demon. And basically when a gate opens, something will see it and come through. The evil magic user had studied demonology and knew the name of this particular demon. Didn't know it had become good. Calls it through the gate, taking a chance to flee the abyss, comes through. Now, I rolled the dice to see what type of demon. It could have been a Vrock. It could have been it could have been anywhere from a type 1 to a type 6, right? I rolled a die. And it was a type 5. So she pops through, looking all human. And I had the party show up right then. Fought the evil magic user. The party asked, "Hey, what are you doing in a summoning circle, madam?" She said, "He gated me in and imprisoned me." They erased part of the circle of protection, so she was able to leave it. But not wanting to operate under false pretense, once she was in a private setting with just the player characters and not their hirelings, she revealed her true self, explained what had happened, and said, "If you want me to take leave of you, I will leave." But they bade her stay. So she holds her human form, and I've kind of, to stop it from being a Mary Sue, like, oh, Bill gets to run his female demon character in the game. I myself mechanically have deemed that because there's a limited number of her type, she's missed. Not missed. So, we wish you would come back. They're like, where is she? Where in all the abyss is she? If she goes around using her powers, changing her shape constantly, psionics, especially psionics, the charm ability, so on and etc., doing demon things, somebody will pick up on it. And I justify that because if you look at this random psionic encounter table, demons and devils are possible to show up, which means they can pick up on things like that. So she is just a normal human fighter who fights with the party. Now, it is a bit of a stickler because for the longest time, she couldn't take magical healing. Creatures from the lower planes can't be cured like that. They can drink potions or they can wait it out. But that's it. Greets, Mobius. Would the demon turn into an angel? Not at present. Not at present. When detected for, it radiates good. To answer your question, Mobius. No alignment. Detect evil, detect good. The only thing that reveals her nature, and that's if she still has her magic resistance, that's innate. But yeah, if somebody hits her with true seeing and I blow the magic resistance roll, which for her type is 80%, then yeah, they're going to see a 6-armed snake lady hanging out with the party. But yes, she radiates good. And again, she wants to be good. This is not a case of I put that stupid helmet on and now I can't drink the blood of infants and eat their hearts in front of their horrified parents. Whatever. Fine. I don't agree, Todd. I absolutely don't agree with that. It's best for the paladin to at least try to detect evil lest he wind up losing power for attempting to kill a newly minted angel. Yeah, she's not evil, but she's also not an angel. And I had a great episode. You can go back and dig around and find it with the dungeon minister about the idea of redemption. You know, she's a few ages of the universe old and has done just innumerable evil acts, like base and depraved things. She's a demon, but now she's lawful good. Does she now have redemption? If she dies, is she going right back to the abyss? You know, where's the forgiveness? Is there forgiveness for her type? So, but I've kind of after a bit of a story arc where she was kind of the focus, but I wasn't playing her as a focus. Like the one thing that I have fought against tooth and nail is, oh, well, here she comes to save the day with her super powerful powers to save the party. But that's an interesting, Damien, I saw that and I actually meant to circle back around to that. If you're doing a strictly well, not strictly, but I mean, if your abyss is from, if you're kind of tapping John Donne and but the Bible, obviously, and all of your devils are fallen angels, you might do that. No, Todd, no alignment is a very specific. Alignment is a very real thing in D&D. You got to stop thinking with your literal mind here, or do think with a literal mind. All right. Yes, it is that black and white. I mean, people can kind of slowly fade into other alignments and so on. But when you think about things like alignment languages, and you can only be certain classes if you're a certain alignment, or if you do certain things, you suffer an alignment change that very physically and obviously changes who you are and how you move in the world, then yes, alignments are a very real and true thing. And to say someone is chaotic good or neutral good or lawful evil or true neutral is not just like, well, that's kind of an ethos they follow. I don't know. No, I mean, it's as real as their hit points. It's as real as their level title. It's that concrete. At least it is in my campaign. So no alignment is a thing. Now there's plenty of obscurement spells that you can use. Tommy says it depends on how hard you adhere to alignment. For a hard absolute alignment, then yes, a change from chaotic evil to lawful good would absolve the demon. That's an interesting approach. And I mean, if we look at just through a window of Christianity, just for a moment, if you'll bear with me on this, I'm not trying to push any worldview on anyone. I haven't the tongue for it anyway. But once forgiven, always forgiven. So if she takes a knee and prays to a lawful good deity that she would adopt and follow the religion of, then that would absolve her. And upon her death, she would ascend to heaven. James Seymour, not Jane Seymour. If Jane Seymour was here, well, the stream would last about 8 hours, and it would just be me sitting here going, no, please, go on. But anyway, James Seymour, and it's good to see you. What's the best magic item to give out at low level that won't unbalance a campaign? Potions, swords and daggers, shields, armor. That +1 from a shield, rings of protection, cloaks of protection. Anything that can just slightly nudge stuff. But carefully read the fine print. Like a ring of regeneration. Oh, okay, a ring of regeneration is nice. Yeah, it's 3 hit points a turn, and I'm not giving a vampiric one. Rings of regeneration can bring a character back from the dead. Yes, it can. Explain how. Ring of regeneration. There are 2 forms of this ring. The standard regeneration ring restores 1 hit point of damage and will replace lost limbs or organs eventually also per turn. It will bring its wearer back from death But if poison is a cause, a saving throw must be made, or else the wearer dies again from the poison still in his or her system. Only total destruction of all living tissue by fire or acid or similar means will prevent regeneration. Of course, the ring must be worn, and its removal stops regeneration. And vampiric ring of regeneration bestows 1/2 the value of all hit points of damage the wearer inflicts upon opponents in hand-to-hand, melee, non-missile, non-spell combat immediately upon its wearer fractions drop. It does not otherwise cause regeneration or life, limb, or organ. And 10% of those are vampiric rings of regeneration. Tonka Todd said he played in an all-Cavalier party once, the Pretty Boys. So yeah, be careful with that. Also note, yes, Jay Eckley, it will, until you make your saving throw, which could be really unpleasant. Now, one thing that's not mentioned here, one thing that is not mentioned about the Ring of Regeneration is, does it require a system shock roll? And upon your regeneration from death, does it take a point of con? That's something for the individual dungeon master to decide, I would think. Something else I would definitely say is that, like, you find the tomb of the ancient archmage. Hey, Bob, let me borrow your ring of regeneration. Let's put it on his finger. No, he's already dead. Can't put it on a zombie to get a person back. Can't put it on a skeleton. Can't give it to a wight. Although, I mean, wights are not so much dead as they are negative energy plane evil beings. Same with ghouls and ghasts and specters and wraiths. I think so. Damien, there's a lot of stuff about Unearthed Arcana Gary should have done differently. Honestly, I think he just didn't have time. I mean, the company was sinking. That it's horrible and it's unpleasant, but there's, I should consider an aircraft carrier for a second, even ones back in the Second World War. Their draft is such that there are places where, when you're in the lower parts of the ship, engineering spaces, you're underwater. You are underwater. You are submerged in water. The water level is over where you're at. All of the men working in those spaces understand that if the ship is hit in such a way that it starts to flood, but they have to stay at their stations, even if their section is flooding, when the watertight doors are closed, they're not getting out. It's a sad truth, but it is the truth. They're not getting out. Now, people in a compartment that's not flooded above them or in any other direction might hear them banging on the hatch, begging to be let out. The officers on the ship have to make a sacrifice to keep things afloat. And it's an unpleasant thing, but they have to do it. Happened with the USS Franklin in World War II. A lot of men went down with the ship because they were in spaces that had to be closed off. So with regard to D&D, TSR was a ship that had been hit a lot of times. And the unpleasant reality is Gary had to make some command decisions. And honestly, if he had said, hey, while I'm out here in California, I'm going to take a break from the movie stuff. Well, I'm still going to focus on the movie stuff, but I'm going to write 6-8 hours a day. And I'm going to, no, I can believe it, James. I can absolutely believe it. I'm just going to devote all my free time that's not sleeping or eating or the other things that Gary was up to out in California. I'm going to write a D&D book. And he had taken the time to create some well-considered, better rounded stuff. We might have gotten a better Unearthed Arcana or whatever. He didn't have that time. He scraped together stuff. Him and Kim Mohan and all the people he thanked hammered this thing together in a very narrow window and shipped it out. It's the Chrysler K car of D&D books, and it came at about the same time and had the same effect. The Chrysler K car was truly a shitbox of engineering. But that and the minivan sold millions and millions and millions of dollars. Because people had a gas-efficient family sedan with an inline six. I think there may have even been some 4-cylinder K cars that was reasonably comfortable and reasonably well appointed that they could drive around in. And that's what Unearthed Arcana was, the Chrysler K car of D&D books. Reasonably well put together, reasonably well appointed. Hey, it's new D&D stuff. If I was designing an AD&D video game adaptation, would it play like Baldur's Gate or Final Fantasy Tactics? Just whichever was the most popular. Whatever I thought would push the most sales. From an engineering standpoint, I lean a little bit closer. I cleave a little bit closer to Baldur's Gate. Now, I played the first Baldur's Gate game, and it was oodles of fun. I mean, yes, it was set in Forgotten Realms, but it was still it was still Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. All right. You have 2 copies of Unearthed Arcana, rather. Both are still holding up well. Not sure how they will be tomorrow. Yeah. But no, I would make it play like Baldur's Gate. If I wanted to go like really wide, though, I might go with Tactics. No, I did not mention the Pinto. I did not mention the Pinto. I did not mention the Pinto, the Maverick, the Maserati. I had a friend in high school. This would have been like 1986. So, you know, a 10-year-old Maverick was an entirely believable car for a student. He called it the Maserati. But yeah, that's what I would do. I would do a Final Fantasy kind of thing to get it onto consoles and handhelds and that sort of thing. People in the living room. I got to be honest, nobody would touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I would love to see a Greyhawk video game. The company that owned Troika that was publishing for Troika ruined Greyhawk in video games. We got like Heroes of Greyhawk or something like that, and it was like a Diablo action twin stick twitch isometric game. But I mean, it had fuck all to do with Greyhawk. But Temple of Elemental Evil was supposed to kick off a series of Greyhawk-based D&D games. I mean, there were plans for an Against the Giants, Slave Lords, all of those. It would have been for the 3.5 game engine. But we would have gotten all the classic stuff. And Troika took a less stable build with more scripting errors and published it because Troika had two builds of the game. They had the more stable one going that had way fewer bugs and was newer, but you could unalive children in it. And Troika said, well, we don't want that. And they said, okay, well, we can turn that off. That's not a problem. Well, we already have a build from you, and we're just going to publish that. And they said, please don't do that. It's broken. We can just patch this code. No, it's going gold now. And so we got the broken mess that we got. The Fiero lasted. Let me tell you something. This doesn't really speak to the reliability or anything about the Fiero beyond, hey, this is really neat. There's this cat named Ronald Finger on YouTube. He did a full restoration of an entirely clapped out Fiero. The videos are funny. They're very well put together. It took him like 2 years to do. The poor guy bought like 4 gas tanks for the thing, trying to find one that wasn't full of pinhole rust leaks. But he basically restored that car to factory new. I mean, it was a true restoration of that car, and it is a labor of love. Now, I know a guy here in town who who was working on his own Fiero under the same circumstances, decided to sell it, but he actually saw the videos too, independent. Like, I didn't tell him about this, but he went out and started watching the videos, and he and Ronald were in communication about the working on of his car. And it was so neat to watch. Like, one of the things that I found out about cars, and this kind of blew me away. So many little things on cars that I would think would be, yeah, that's an electric motor that does that. Or, you know, that's gearing, or that's a belt. It's vacuum advance in the distributor. Headlamps, cars headlamps are vacuum induction. There's literally stuff sucking air out that causes them to pop up, and it blows air in and it causes them to go down. So many things that I thought were computers back in cars starting in the 80s were not. Case in point, who remembers when Magic Voice started showing up in cars? Check your fuel level. Your door is ajar. Your trunk is open. Passenger seat belt not connected. It's a record. It is a plastic record with audio tracks cut in it. They're locked grooves, and the stylus is advanced across them. It will literally play an audio track. I know, I was completely like, that just blew my mind when I saw that. Hey, Bachwinkle, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. My lottery build is any 60s or 70s era Corvette. I live about a 2-hour drive, maybe less, from Eckler's Corvettes, which is one of the only, if not the only, third-party replica manufacturing for Corvette parts. Body, interior, a little bit of running stuff, but not much. Basically, if you have the frame and chassis of a Corvette, you can go to Eckler's in Titusville and buy the appropriate parts for it. A 63 split window. That's right, TJ. You know what I'm talking about. Bachwinkle is tangentially related to the band Ween. Are you a member of Bachwinkle? Oh, 57 Chevy, the Bel Air with the big fins. Funny thing about that thing, I mean, by the time the Bel Air series truly had its day, 56, 57, 55, 56, and 57, that's the 55 started out, was meant as a competitor for the Thunderbird. And the Thunderbird was Ford's answer to the Ferrari. They didn't believe that Americans could make a decent sports car. Ferrari, Carmen Ghia, Porsche in the 50s were just kicking the ass of American automobiles. And they, Ford took him to task and built the Thunderbird, and Chevy said, we can do that too. We're introducing the Bel Air in 53. And you can kind of see where they're thinking along the same lines. But by 57, man, they had turned that thing into like a B-47 Stratojet of a car. Like, I mean, it was still a performer, right? It still had that 315 in there. Yeah, the 57 really was boss. It was really awesome. Oh, the Superbird, the Plymouth Superbird. Yes. What a car. What an amazing car. There was a Chrysler dealership over on the west end of town here in Orlando, in the Orlando area, that once a month on a Saturday morning, they had a Superbird owners club meeting. And it was a way to get people on the lot to look at stuff, because they would have it like to the side and in the back. You could see them from the street, those distinctive paint schemes and those big high wings. But you had to walk through the lot. You had to park and you had to walk through the lot to get over and go look at the cars. The Plymouth Superbird, the Plymouth Superbird, where'd the Superbird comment go? Somebody delete on that? Oh no, there it is, James. Because the Petty won with that crazy wing and that body design, and that was back when a stock car was literally a stock car. You bought one from the factory, and then you started tuning the engine and taking stuff out of the car to race it on the NASCAR circuit. Not you built a car out of custom parts. But the Superbird, if you got one, if you ordered one from a Plymouth dealer in 70 or 71, when they hit, and they were limited numbers. But if you ordered one, you drove off the lot with a car that can and would go 180 miles an hour. The downdraft on that car, it practically suctioned itself to the road. So you're not in super danger of losing control. No, he couldn't. But the Superbird was a phenomenal piece of automotive engineering. And Plymouth knew it, and that's why you got those, like that cerulean blue, that day-glow green, that day-glow safety orange, that bright pearlescent white. Oh, James, that hurts my heart. But nobody told him to gamble. He did that himself. But yeah, I mean, if not for radio, if you wanted to go out and just drive away from the police, just like, nah, you're not giving me a ticket today. And you had the chops, you could handle it. You could just put the hammer down in a Superbird and you were taillights, man. That was it. Those were unbelievable cars. I believe it. I absolutely believe what you're saying, James. Clocked over 180. I 100% believe that. So, but that's enough about that. Let's not talk about cars. We had 15 people on, and now we've got 9. I've lost like a third, over a third of the audience because I got off talking about cars. But hey, that means 2/3 of you guys are here, and you want to hear me talk about cars. So, Oh, so to get back, I don't even know how we got here talking about cars. I think we were talking about car analogies or something. We were talking about Gary saving TSR by writing the equivalent of a K car. Unearthed Arcana was basically the K car. The horse is fine. Thank you for asking, Todd. So yeah, Unearthed Arcana, really more of a, we got to save TSR. And the tragedy is Gary saved TSR for nothing. If he had known what was coming in the next 18 months, he might have just folded his hands. But he thought he was saving the company to come back and win. Yes, Robert, the Blooms bought a fleet of company cars for employees, LTDs, Cadillacs, that sort of thing. When Gary was exiled to California to promote D&D as a multimedia property, films, comic books, wood-burning kits, needlepoint, coloring books, TV shows, toys, candy. You guys remember the little Sweet Tart D&D that had a monster card on the back of the box? Greetings, wave of mutilation. Good morning. But when Gary was exiled out to California, he was really promoting D&D heavily. But when he came back to Lake Geneva to save TSR, he thought immediately he could be rid of the Bloom brothers. And he The ambush at Sheridan Springs is what it's called. In 1986, because after Gary saved the company by releasing Unearthed Arcana, Gary's friend Flint Dilley told Gary, hey, look, the business stuff, you want to get back to doing creative stuff with D&D, releasing modules and source books, right? Gary said, right. Presumably he said, right. Well, Flint Dilley said, listen, Lorraine Williams is a business manager. She can manage the company from a business aspect, and you can just focus on the creative. She has a head for numbers. And Gary had he had sent the Blooms packing at this point, right? When he came back, he fired the TSR had blown up to like 147 employees. They had tens of thousands of dollars in computer and systems furniture, but it was all packaged up in a warehouse. They had a fleet of cars. They had people on the books at TSR who literally showed up on Friday to get a paycheck and then left. And this is the thing that really like makes me hot, because people say, oh, well, Gary, Gary had problems, and he was in coke and hanging out with movie stars and getting in fights with his family and blah 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 blah, and cheating on his wife. It's yes, he was, he did. He's not a saint. I've never said he was. You don't see a venerated icon of Saint Gary with votive candles around it anywhere here, do you? No, you don't. But we got to consider that Gary was trying to save the company. If he fails at this point, there is no Dungeons and Dragons. It goes to Parker Brothers, and that's it. Parker Brothers turns it into a board game, and then it just kind of fades out of existence because it's a fad and it's gone. Oh, we have someone in the green room. I'll bring you in just a minute, Sapphire. I see you over there. So Gary's in the process of saving TSR, and the biggest thing that saved TSR right at that point was the release of Unearthed Arcana. And so he wanted to stick with the creative stuff. And getting an opportunity to do that now that the Blooms were disposed of, that's excellent. Lorraine Williams comes in and takes the business reins. Guess who her two little lick spittles are? Guess who's hanging off of her tits? Brian and Kevin Bloom. He let her in, and she held the door open so they could come right back in and start their shenanigans. That's why we got D&D books that were made of Fall Apart, because now the Blooms and Lorraine Williams are once again calling the fucking shots. So now they're telling Random House glued bindings, not cloth stitched bindings. So the easily covers, beautiful as they are falling apart as quickly as people are getting them home. And Gary read the writing on the walls. So he went to them and sat down and said, look, here is a check for, I think it was like $390,000. And I'm just going to buy TSR. And there's a promise of more. You'll get more. But they wanted it all right then, and they said no. And Gary left. All of his efforts, all of his works, it was all gone that afternoon. He walked. The rest, as they say, is history. But I'm going to doff my Santa hat and put on my headphones, and I'm going to welcome some folks in who came to chit-chat. Because that's how we do around here. I guess I could put will the Santa hat work? I don't think it will. No, that ain't getting it. Hello.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
I'm good.
Good.
Well, you could make the Santa hat work, but
I mean, I've tried to put the headphones on over it, but it mashes my delicate little noggin, and this this just ain't getting it.
I empathize because at my office, I have to. I mean, when I'm doing my team meetings, I use my headphones, but as soon as my meetings are gone, I will put my earbuds in to listen to my music because I cannot work at my office if I don't have my earbuds in. So
yeah,
there's just too much crap going on in the background. I just need to zone it out. So I feel
like these AKG, and that's not a sponsored thing, guys. I just really love these studio cans. These AKG headphones are amazing. I'm probably going to pick up another set just to use on the editing PC to listen to music and watch videos.
I picked up from one of my coworkers who left, and so of course it's company property. So it's the Java or whatever earphones that I plug the little dongle into the laptop, and I'm wireless. So I put the little microphone thing, it rotates, so I can either be on or off just by moving it on my head. So that is awesome. So I don't have to keep like doing the teams with the mute and unmute. So I love that part of it. But unfortunately, I cannot change the size of the head thing over it. So it will give me a headache because I can't change it. So I'm like, oh crap. I love the fact that I don't have a cord and that they completely cover my ears and I can mute and unmute without even thinking about it. But I'm like, if it's giving me a headache, I need my earbuds. I just can't deal with that. So it's half dozen, 1/6 of the other. So
right. I mean, as much as I do enjoy these, I mean the lows are buttery rich, the treble and the highs are like songbirds. These are fantastic pieces of audio equipment. Yeah, like if I do like a crazy long stream, like it goes 4 or 5 hours, like a really long game stream might or something like that, I take these off and it's just like it's like taking a vice off of my head. I mean, these are adjustable and I have them adjusted. They're plenty comfortable right now, but just wearing over the ear headphones, and these are hefty, these are hefty headphones. It can be fatiguing. So
yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but anyway, back to the discussion. I cut it at the end there and it was interesting to me. I didn't know that necessary background on it, but from what I remember hearing towards the end, the divorce that Gary went through, that was a traumatic thing that really was a detriment for the whole TSR on that. So I don't know if you're familiar with that and can share or not, or if you want to even, but
I Yeah, I mean, I've heard the stories uh like towards the end before Gary left and went out to California. Um, but he and Mary Joe Gygax were just at each other's throats. It was like constant screaming matches. It was so unpleasant. And the times he spent with Gail from there on, I mean, I believe he related this directly to Paul Stormberg. And Paul, if you're watching or listening, and I don't have this right, I apologize. But what I recall him saying was that Gary stated that with Gail, for the first time in years, there were like he felt at peace. He felt that he could think, create, and you know, she was there for him, and so on and etc. But yeah, that's kind of one of those sticky things that you don't really want to think about when you're slogging through the caves of chaos, or squaring off against Loth, or throwing down in the Temple of Elemental Evil. Is was Gary like yelling at the top of his lungs at his soon-to-be ex-wife when he was writing this?
Well, I mean, it's not something you generally connect. I think when you're reading a book or watching a movie, you're not thinking about the people that are creating it. You're so involved with the story and the evolution and what's going on that you don't make that connection. So
Yeah.
it's a separation between the people that are creating and the artwork itself that a lot of people don't necessarily knit the two together. I mean, unless you have with books and that you have author meet and greets, but you don't really have the same thing generally with the creators of movies and such. I mean, you might have the actors and that sort of thing on the red carpet, but that's still a degree of separation between the person that actually created and wrote the movie or the script or whatever, and the actual audience themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I found, like, I've dealt with a few quote unquote famous creative people. I mean, and I find that by and large, most of the time they don't want to be always on, and I completely get it. Like my favorite Gary story that I like to tell, and I'll share it with you guys. And Todd's waiting in the green room. I'm going to bring him in after I mention this, and then we can all three of us talk. But people say, "Oh, you got to hang out with Gary. That's so cool. So tell me a Gary story." And I'm like, well, okay, here's my favorite Gary story, and I can tell people, their eyes shine, and they're like, "Oh, he's going to tell me about how this module was created, or Gary killed his character," and so on. And that certainly happened. I did play some D&D with Gary on a few occasions, but something to note is that I had dinner with Gary and Gail Gygax. My wife and I did. We happened to arrive at his house. Many other guests were invited too. This wasn't like some exclusive thing, but we happened to get there first, and we sat on Gary's front porch. Gary and Gail and myself and Colleen. And for that 30 or 45-minute stretch before other people started drifting in, it was just this very pleasant domestic scene. I mean, Gary and I talked about parenting, about parenting infants, because Colleen mentioned that she was 3 months along with my with my youngest daughter. Happy birthday, Rosemary, by the way. And like that was, as soon as she said that, Gail was doting over her like an ant. You know, she's, you know, honey, do you need a cushion? Can I get you some water? Gary, turn the fan on. Make sure she, you know, do you need us to open the jealousy windows? And it was just this wonderful moment. And it wasn't like, you know, how many hit points does a dwarf have? How, you know, how far can an elf throw a halfling? We just talked about normal stuff like normal folks. And
well, the thing that people kind of forget is people are people no matter what they do, what their jobs are, they are still people. They put their pants on one leg at a time like everybody else. It's just they've had either a happenstance that's fortunate, or they have a certain skill set that they're able to share that has spread to so many other people that just make them a celebrity in certain aspects, that they make them out to be something more than being people. And I mean, when it comes down to it, they get colds, they, you know, get sick, they have the same feelings as everybody else. And it's kind of unfortunate and fortunate at the same time with that people put them on such a pedestal, but then at the same time there's enough people that realize that they are still human and can relate. So I mean, it's a mixed bag.
Yeah. I mean, I think Geddy Lee hit it out of the park when he said, I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend. You know, everybody wants to say, oh, I'm buddies with this guy and I know that guy. And I mean, you know, there's a degree of separation that comes there, but there's times when you just want to be treated like a person, not an autograph machine. You know, just you're just out there. You're just out there doing your job. And I mean, I've said this before, and Tonka Todd's probably going to stomp in with some with something about Arkansas football here in a minute. But you watch college players, and like, you know, if they have a touchdown play or something like that, big play, and the momentum of them catching the ball or running, and they run off the sideline and they get near the stands. The purest thing in the world outside of touchdown passes and game clutch winning field goals and so on and et cetera, is the kids will see them coming, right? Jogging over to the retention wall, and they'll give those kids high fives. And I mean, that is worth all the, you know, waiting for 2 hours to pay $20 to get an autograph in the world, I think. So Todd probably wants to run in and give an Arkansas to me also. I better add him to the stream. Hello, Todd.
Well, a woo pig suey to you too, Bill. How you doing?
I called it.
Well, we're doing celebrity kind of things, so I'm going to share a quick one.
All right.
Okay. So my last celebrity type of thing was I was going to physical therapy for my knee. And I'm sitting there waiting for my appointment, and coming out actually waiting for his appointment too. I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, he's kind of a buff guy, and I didn't think anything of it. And I saw his shirt that he had on, and it had a little lightning bolt, and I didn't think anything of it. And so this guy comes out, and he's like, oh my God, Melvin Gordon, you know, NFL Chargers running back type of thing. And I'm like, oh, and I thought to myself, oh, I'm at the right physical therapist if the NFL is trusting one of their people here. It just didn't occur to me, really, you know, he's another person, and he's getting his therapy here. But if they're going to trust, whatever insurance they have on a professional athlete going to the same physical therapist I'm at the right place. So.
Definitely. Sports medicine centers can be the best place in the world to go if you've thrown, broken, sprained, twisted, ripped, or otherwise damaged something on your person. For sure.
Well, at least he didn't threaten to file a restraining order on you like Pamela Anderson did me that time.
No, there was none of that. It was just he was doing his thing with his therapist. I was doing my thing with my therapist. Though I cannot look at a pool noodle the same way again.
We're a family program here, so the things you were doing with your therapist, maybe we should.
No, they have a solid pool noodle and they push it down and it hurts. Oh my God. I mean, the therapist looked at me and said, some people cry when I do this. I'll understand if you do, but I'm like, oh my God, this hurts so much. But yeah,
this is serious. You be careful with your phrasing moment there. Waves asks, did Pamela never call Todd after their encounter? That's weird. That is such a story.
Wave, right?
That's such a fun story.
Tonka, you're a bro, but yeah, that was stalkerish.
I only walked by in the shot like 3 or 4 times, staring at her the whole time. What's wrong with that? I see nothing wrong with that.
Oh my gosh.
Bill, do you have an external opinion that is not biased one way or the other? Can you do it?
As an old hand at dungeon mastering, I'm going to have to roll percentile dice and let you know. I'm going to say there's a 33% chance that Tonka Todd is a creeper.
How many times did you walk past? How many?
33% chance.
And 15% each time.
And then a 30% chance that no, he's not a creepy stalker. He just admires the woman's beauty. So here we go. Survey says it's an 80. Nah, he's fine. He's not a creepy stalker. He just admires the woman's looks. Got an 80 with my brand new anodized metal dice, which were sent over by Dudragao Gaming. So,
well, I actually earlier when you were talking about Gary, there's a question that I've always kind of pondered on, and it's what do you think would have happened to TSR and what would eventually become second edition and on if Gary could have got the movie deal done, produced, and was able to buy out the Blooms early while he was in California? What do you think the game would look like?
Oh, woulda, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Okay, so I'm just responding to someone in the chat. Gary very vaguely hinted at what he had planned for second edition D&D. I don't think it's fair to look at the relative mess that Unearthed Arcana kind of dumped on our gaming tables and say, well, that's what Gary wanted. That's where he was taking the game. Because if we go down your alternate history route, Tonka Todd, which is a lot more attractive to me from a gaming and a game's history standpoint, then Gary's not pressured to write this. Gary has time to refine a second edition. With that said, Gary was of the mind that the assassin, brace yourself, kiddies, and I know you guys are like, Tui, get rid of the assassin, that's no good. AD&D had the assassins too. He threw it out. Guess what? Gary was going to get rid of assassins as a player class. He was going to set up. This is DM's eyes only. These are classes of characters. There would have been the assassin. There would have been sort of an anti-ranger that I think was like the trapper or huntsman or something like that. And then there was like an anti-bard class called the jester. There was an adventuring sage, and I'm trying to think of what the class name he gave it, but it was kind of.
I have to Google this now. Oh, damn it!
The mystic. I think it was the mystic.
Anti-sage.
Don't leave out the Monty Bank.
Yep, it's called the Sage.
The mountebank. Yes, the mountebank would have been in there. But I think there might have been some changes that a lot of people say, oh, if only Gary had been able to keep control of TSR. People might still not have liked second edition AD&D. People might have stuck with first edition. But one thing I can tell you to those fans, Gary was very much of a mindset to keep editions of games in print that people liked. Now, you can throw hands over, well, Gary stole D&D and he made AD&D to cut Dave Arneson out of D&D. You can bring that argument to the table as you want, but the fact of the matter remains, TSR saw huge profits with basic D&D sales and all the iterations of basic. That was a profitable line. Gary had no intention of cutting that off in the whole, well, it didn't get the same amount of support. It didn't get the same amount of support because it didn't have the same number of fans. But it still was it was a valuable product line, and Gary wanted to keep both going. So a second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons written by Gary Gygax, published by TSR, likely would have just been another D you could buy, and you could still buy AD&D. And I'm sure if we hit a point where, look, we're not selling, let's say it's 1990, and Gary's looking over the books with someone who's not dead set on ripping him off, and he looks at these and says, well, look, we're only moving like a couple of hundred of each of the AD&D books retail, and we've got a few thousand in the warehouse. Let's just kind of grandfather that out, and that it might have gone away then, but I don't think there would have been the bring the blade down. There is no first edition. It is now second edition. You will change your campaigns to fit this. That's my opinion. I could be completely wrong about that.
Yeah, that's something I always kind of wondered about when I got older and kind of learned the back history of kind of the inner workings. But, it's funny that the basic set sold so much because, like the Moldvay basic set, that was geared toward my age group when I started playing in the late 70s, early 80s. That was made for 10-year-olds to get them involved in D&D.
Sure. And I've mentioned this story before. There's a big store chain here in I don't think it largely exists anymore, but there's a it was called Albertsons, but it was primarily a grocery store, but they had a light auto parts aisle. They had a they had like a little browse area up front you could buy records in. They had a toy aisle, and in a grocery store you could buy the magenta Moldvay basic box. I didn't see the expert one there, but you could buy basic D&D in a grocery store. I only ever saw AD&D hardbacks and modules in department stores with big toy departments or in hobby stores.
Yeah.
Or Sears.
Mine were in bookstores. We went to the Barnes & Noble.
Oh, right. Barnes & Noble, Walden Books, that sort of place also carried.
Yeah, Walden Books, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, was it J.C. Penney's that also sold D&D stuff? Or is that right, or was it Sears?
No idea.
Sears and Penny's both. There was a brief time before you had the controversy spike. It was like winter 82, 83. And this gets, there's a lot of images that get passed around. Let me see if I can find real quick, and I'll share it out for folks to see. Let's fire up the Google. Come spy on me, Google.
Is that like the Siri thing?
Yeah. I was talking about. Okay, so here's one. Let me let's open image, new tab. Open image, and come on. But yeah, here we go. I'm gonna share this up. Share screen. And I'll add this to the stream. But there, you guys can see it. There's I'm not sure what year this is from, but there's crossbows and catapults. A box of Endless Quest books, some AD&D hardbacks, Star Frontiers, Traveler, Starfleet Battles, guys. Starfleet Battles. Fossa Star Trek Space Opera. So, yeah, you could get all this. I got my Expert D&D set and almost bought some other role-playing games at a Sears outlet store. They had Space Opera. They had... a few others there because they sold them for a couple of years or maybe just 1 year, and then they offloaded them all onto the outlet store, and they got out of the. Was that the Sears Wish Book? I'm not. Let me see here.
You know.
Sears still
What's crazy about looking at this is you are bringing back my childhood. My one of my friends had the crossbows and catapults game that we used to play at sleepovers. Of course, we all had the D&D books because we were all in the same little group. Dark Tower.
Are you excited?
Baby. Oh yeah, baby!
You are too excited. Oh my God.
So we have some miniatures, some heritage dungeon dwellers, the D&D electronic game. I have one
Oh
of
my
those.
gosh, I kind of remember that.
Yeah.
I remember having that game. I have no idea what happened to it, but I remember that game.
They're not terribly expensive. I got one on eBay, and it was funny because
don't they have like little trigger plates in it or something?
They do. So the way the game works is there are sounds. There are no lights, or this row of buttons here on the left hand side. I'll kind of zoom in so you guys can see that this row of buttons here. Those don't light up or anything.
When did it come out?
I'm not sure what year this is, but
gosh, I must have been like really young because I have vague memories of it. But yeah,
Dark Tower came out. I want to say my 5th or 6th grade year, so I was 10 or 11.
Yeah, I'm a touch older than that. I think Dark Tower hit in 82. So this.
Yeah, Bill, you and I are like less than a year or so.
Yeah. So this I have one. I'm gonna bring this up here. Let me see if I can. I will remove that, and then I will go back to. I will go back to this view, and then I will bring up the. If I can open OBS here.
Cue the Dark Tower camera, guys. Cue the Dark.
I don't have Dark Tower, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. Where is
I'm
it?
gonna have to Google it, but yeah, I kind of remember that. That's
No matter how many times Chris, my buddy, he was kind of the rich kid in school. He had Dark Tower, and that was one game that our group was never able to really beat. Plague always got us.
So the thing with Dark Tower was the guys who designed Dark Tower. Well, they basically they filed a patent for the computer control module, and they pitched a kind of a prototype version to Milton Bradley, who said, "Sorry, we're not interested." And then Milton Bradley turned around and released Dark Tower, and a judge took one look at it and told Milton Bradley, "Yeah, you guys straight up stole this. There's like no question." So Dark Tower was only around for a year or two. It is a complete working Dark Tower game is rare. Those things.
They're super high dollar too. I've looked into it.
When I thought about getting Dark Tower, when I was getting back into D&D, and there was in the early late 90s, and this eBay thing that had been around for 6 or 7 years, I looked on there. Back then, Dark Tower ran around $200 for one in more or less okay condition. Nowadays, it's insane, but if you have the coin to spend, there is a sequel, Return to Dark Tower, and it's the same thing. You've got an electronic tower in the middle. You're doing the same thing. It's just a little more advanced. For a long time, there was a Flash version of Dark Tower. Somebody rewrote the whole thing in Flash and had a program running the game master portion of it. And yes, it is brutally hard, solo or against people. You will lose soldiers to plague. You will lose soldiers to, like, if you go in a dungeon to try and win some coins to spend at the bazaar, you're going to lose some of your army sending them into a dungeon.
Oh, okay. I've got since Dark Tower's done. Because, Bill, the secret to me being me is I'm still the 10-year-old. I'm just trapped in a 50-year-old's body. And I know that's a shock to you. I know it is, but it's true.
How many people are in there with you, Todd? Can they hear us now?
You can't even begin to count the people in here, buddy. But do you remember the old electronics game, Stop Thief?
Yeah, I remember Stop Thief.
I was the Stop Thief master at my house. Well, mainly because my family wouldn't play my games with me, so it was just me playing it.
Hey, Todd. But that's not a major accomplishment, knowing what I know about you.
This is
you put lipstick on a pig, and it's still a pig.
Oh gosh, be nice now. No, this is Montgomery Ward. This is a Montgomery Ward catalog, and given Dark Tower and the Dungeons and Dragons Electronic Labyrinth game are in here. The one thing I was going to mention about the D&D Electronic Labyrinth game, the visual pieces are nice, but everything you do in the game, you do by listening. If you bump into a wall, it makes a certain sound, and you can then put a wall tile down and kind of know where you're at in the maze. But when the dragon starts hunting you, it makes a certain sound. If you run into a trap, it makes a certain
crap. I remember that. Oh gosh. I do remember that. What the heck game was that? Like with the subs and that was similar to that had noises.
There was an electronic battleship game.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what you're thinking of. Electronic battleship.
Oh yeah, I was spoiled. I had the cool toys.
This right here was my jam. Come on. Open up. I was all about Star Wars toys, and I love telling this story, and I'm going to tell it again. This bad boy right here. Oh, go away. Pop-ups. Right there. That one. It's on the shelf. It's out of sight, but I still have mine. It's over there. I still have my X-Wing up there.
You need to bring it out one of these times and share it.
I may do that. I'll set up the studio and stuff, and show that off. But so here's the Star Wars.
Revisit old memories. We will love it with you.
Here's the Star Wars story. My father was a nerd. My dad was a weird combination. Like, he played football, he served in the military, he hung drywall his whole life. He did absolutely despicable, horrible jobs in a steel mill that union employees wouldn't be caught dead doing. But my dad, growing up, loved Buck Rogers stuff, and he got me into reading some classic science fiction. The only science fiction books outside of comic books and Star Wars and Star Trek that I had read up until when I was about 11 or 12 years old. That was it. And we went to a flea market that used to be just up the road from where I live now, but it's long gone. But we stopped by a book reseller, and I left. My dad just kept handing me paperback after. This is a good book. Read this, read these, read this. And I left with so many Edgar Rice Burroughs, Robert A. Heinlein, Starship Troopers, Fahrenheit 451, Doc Smith's Lensman books.
Ursula Le Guin and McCaffrey.
I did buy the Montana Mule Choker Doubleday book club hardback version of the Dragon Riders of Pern that day, is the princely sum of $2.50. And that got me into Dragon Riders of Pern. But yeah, no, Dad got me into a lot more science fiction. But anyway, when my dad was a kid, my grandfather, and this is my father's own words, was a piece of shit. He was not a nice man. He was pretty vile. And he was a drunk. My dad wanted, something Buck Rogers, probably a tin rocket ship or something when he was a kid. And my father's father told him, I think grandfather is an appropriate term to use, told him point blank that that's sissy stuff and he wasn't going to get it. When the Star Wars toys first started rolling out, and they were they hadn't even made them, and there was an incredible demand for them. My dad bought me every primary figure. So I got a C-3PO, a Leia, a Han, a Chewie, an R2-D2, a Darth Vader, 2 Stormtroopers.
Ooh.
Troopers. I got a Jawa, a Sandman, a Ben Kenobi, and the X-Wing fighter, which my pop was making about his take-home pay from his non-union steel mill job was around $150 a week in 1978. So my dad basically dropped the equivalent of about a third of his paycheck, which today would be going out and spending, I don't know what a person makes a week these days on average, but I did the math once and it came out to be I think it was $2 a figure back then. So that's $24, and the X-Wing was $19.99. So basically my dad blew about a third of a paycheck on getting me Star Wars stuff. And he told my mom in no uncertain terms that I would have it, that we were not well-off people in Gadsden. But my dad told her what I told you guys about his dad and said that I would have Star Wars toys. And so that year I got my X-Wing and I got my Star Wars figures, and they are in a box down here. Most of them, my Sandman has wandered off into the desert somewhere. I don't know where he is. Hopefully I can find him someday. But that's just how my dad was. And so the next year I got the Millennium Falcon. Now, by the time I got the Millennium Falcon in 79, 78, maybe, I was fully cognizant that Santa Claus was a nice little story that parents told their kids. But we picked up the Millennium Falcon from Sears. They ordered it. It was a catalog order, and we went to the catalog purchase desk at Sears, and it was like mid-November. I remember coming home. I was sitting in the back of our clapped out 73 Chevy Nova, holding this giant box. It seemed like it was this big with a Millennium.
You're probably on the back deck too, in the rear view, the window.
But yeah, no, I was just like, I oh my gosh, to have to wait for like a month and a half to get that thing. Oh, it was torture. I turned that box over and over. My parents, when they would leave the house, when they would go buy groceries on a Saturday, if they didn't take me, if they thought my sister, who was, I guess she's 4 years older than me. So yeah, she was 12. If they thought, okay, we're just going to be going down to the Piggly Wiggly to get some milk and bread, and we'll be back in a minute. The first thing I would do when I heard the car pull out of the driveway is run up to the hall closet and get the box out and just stare at it.
Did you shake it?
Oh, no. It might have damaged it. But yeah, so for about a month, I lived with the knowledge that just beyond my reach, so close yet so far away, was the Millennium Falcon. And it's mine now. It's up on the shelf over yonder.
You had you had Millennium Falcon too?
I have present tense. I still have it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
See, I never got into the models.
See, I had Luke, Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, one Stormtrooper, a Tusken Raider, a Jawa, an X-Wing, a TIE Wing, a Sand Speeder, and the Empire Strikes Back playset that had the AT-AT, and it had the elevator. You could go up and down inside the AT-AT.
Yeah.
And I had a Hoth. Well, all the stuff that came with the Hoth playset thing. I got one Christmas. I got all the Star Wars stuff, and then later at another Christmas, I got the Return or the Empire Strikes Back stuff. And then later on in life, I was like, man, I want to keep up with these action figures. And my little brother, who is 6 years younger than me, I came in one day from playing out in the woods because, in the South, that's what we do.
It is. It is absolutely.
I came in from playing in the woods with some friends out in the country, and my little brother was just laughing and giggling, and I noticed he had a pile of action figures there in the kitchen floor, and I said, "What are you doing, man?" And we had a metal fan in the kitchen.
Oh,
and Trent would turn on the metal fan to like supersonic hurricane mode, and he had. Do you remember the little green army men that came with the parachute?
Yes.
He took the parachute off and put it on my Star Wars guys and was throwing them up, and he was throwing them up high where they'd hit the ceiling. And then when they'd come down, man, he turned that fan on and he was lopping off their heads.
Oh, dude, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that was the first time of many times that my little brother ran from me out of sheer terror that I was going to kill him.
Good. Okay, so let me ask you guys this: would you guys like? Now it's dusty. It needs some cleaning up. Would you guys like to see the Millennium Falcon? Audience, what do you guys think? Would anyone like to see an actual Millennium Falcon toy up close? And I will bring it off the shelf.
Are you kidding? Yeah.
I want to. What do you guys out there in the audience? Do you guys want to see it? We'll wait to.
Is that even a question, Bill? Is that even a question? Come on.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to super chat that. This one we're looking at here. This is Wishbook, so that's Sears. Unicycle Peon wants to see it. So that's, oh my gosh, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Yeah, I think we've got a. Can one more vote to push it over? Anyone? Just to make sure.
Okay, you got Todd and myself, so yeah.
Okay, so we've got 7. This is the way. So I'm gonna take my headphones off here. Hang on a second, guys.
So you're going with the mandolin. This is the way.
Right. For everyone that didn't vote yes, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to bedazzle your dog.
That is. It's funny and mean at the same time. How do you do that?
I am good like that. No, the peanut gallery knows I'm just messing with them.
Yeah, I was going with a no comment, but hey, you addressed it.
Oh, look at that.
Ooh. That's pretty.
Every time I see the Millennium Falcon,
angle it up so we can see the bottom. Come on. Ooh.
Oh, look at there. With
you need a light underneath. Get like a flashlight so we can see the bottom properly. Oh my God! It opens up. Oh.
Now that back part, if I remember right, that's where the table where the 3D chess was.
Oh, someone's fancy. Of course, not all of us had like hobby store connections, but ooh, open it.
The pilot section.
So I'm assuming there were action figures that fit inside the model of everybody you needed. That they can bend and you can sit them in and pose them correctly. So you can reenact the movie going on.
Well, of course you had, and as a matter of fact, the gun turns that he turned, there's little seats that you could put the action figures in, and the seat turned with the turn.
I didn't get into the modeling stuff. The only models that I got into was Warhammer, and it was visiting a friend that had all of that stuff. I didn't get into the models though. I was all mental for me.
You're in the wrong mindset. They're not models. That's a toy.
Really? No, they're action figures. It's like calling G.I. Joe a doll. It's an action figure. It's not a doll or a toy.
Well, you played with them though, so yeah, it wasn't a model that you put together and then set up on the shelf and never touch. You know, it was a toy.
We need your expertise again because Tonka and I are having a dispute here. Okay, so the figures you put into the model, are they toys or are they action figures?
Yes. I mean, an action figure is a toy. A toy, they're meant to be played with. And I'll tell you guys a little something. As Todd told his heartbreak story, from the time I was 5 until when I was about 7 or 8. When we lived in Atlanta, one year I got this great G.I. Joe Jeep. It came with a like a battery powered spotlight. It came with a trailer that had a recoilless rifle and some other cool stuff. I left it on our fenced in. There was a wooden rail around it, porch. And it was stolen off our porch and destroyed. I found like the recoilless rifle itself, which was spring loaded. Of course, you put the missile in and you push the button and it launches out. Like toys don't anymore. I found
That's
that
because they're dangerous. Poke an eye out.
I found that thing jammed in the grating of the floor drain in our apartment's laundromat when my mom and I went walking.
So it's like a public area that some little schmucky kid grabbed on you.
Well, that's just it. They leaned over our rail, the wooden railing of our porch, and got it and took it off. The next the next batch of GI Joes that I had, once again, stolen out of my backyard and completely destroyed. When I got my Star Wars figures, my parents didn't even have to tell me not to take them outside to play with. So you go back and you look on YouTube at these commercials of these kids and they're playing, oh, it's the Forest of Endor, so we're playing around mom's ferns in the backyard. Not mine. I wanted the snowy surface of Hoth. I got the white comforter, the white lace throw, and would bunch it up on the couch.
Okay,
I
assume that the people that are buying these things, they have houses and yards, I guess. So.
Yeah. So, we had a house and a yard in Gadsden, but that's where my last batch of GI Joes bit the dust. All I ever found of them was like one piece of GI Joe clothing. And so, yeah, I lost a lot of those, but those stayed, and they will forevermore, until, I don't know, maybe 17 or 18 years from now when I'm in a pine box and somebody's like, why do we have all this crap? Take it to Goodwill or sell it or something,
Just go ahead and put me in your will and just say all of the cool stuff that where I do my podcast and my videos from, go to Tunkatod. That's all you got to say.
Nice. I'm sure he's going to. He has family that it'll pass down. As it should.
I will be the coolest 85-year-old at the retirement home playing with the Millennium Falcon in my wheelchair. People will be like, I'll be running D&D games. Yeah, just will it to me.
I hate to tell you, Todd, but you'll be lucky if you're coloring in the adult pictures or whatever, or the flowers and whatever else they come up with.
I'll tell you that there's there are folks who are starting to hit their retirement age of Gen X now. The back end or front end, I don't know how you look at it, of Gen X, the first of Gen X to roll in, who are kind of starting to hit their retirement age now. And I do wonder if Dungeons and Dragons is going to replace Canasta and Pinochle at the Shady Rest retirement home.
Well,
they're doing online stuff. So I mean, there's still D&D type games that they're playing, because I play on a couple of them that have been around for like 35, 40 years now, believe it or not, that are D&D kind of based, that, yeah, these people are retired and they make me feel young. So
actually,
that's what they do.
There is a thing on YouTube, and it's the only cool marketing thing I've ever seen WotC do. And
okay.
It was one that I just went, oh, that's smart. They took one of their workers at WotC that was like a DM beta tester, basically. She led one of the test groups. for the 5th edition, whatever. And she went to a retirement home and said, "Would anybody like to play D&D with me?" And so they had six people, guys and girls, mixed up and everything. And these dudes were like boomers all the way, right? And they rolled up characters, and it was so much fun watching them play D&D because them old timers were getting into it, man. They were getting into it. The little old woman, she was like 500 years old, I think. She was playing a thief, and
500.
like every time it came her turn, she would say, "Am I close enough to the paladin to pick his pocket?" And the DM was like, "You sure you want to do that?" And she was like, "I'm a thief." "Yeah." And the DM was like, "No, it's a rogue." And the woman went, "No, I'm a thief. I'm picking his pocket. Am I close enough?" If y'all can find it on YouTube, man, it's worth the watch. It is gold. Gold.
I'll have to go looking for that. That sounds.
I am not going to. I'm tempted to, but I'm not going to because I'm kind of scared.
Yeah, no, I definitely think there's probably going to be more than a few people in the again in the retirement homes. We're going to be playing D&D and so on.
Well,
I know
you have to think about it because the generation that is now starting to get to the age of the nursing homes and that have grown up with it. So it's something when they talk about Alzheimer's and that, the short-term memory is gone, but the long-term memory is still there. So those memories are going to emerge and be very vigilant, and I expect it to occur.
Well, I certainly hope that's the case. I certainly hope that's the case. Tommy's dipping out. We'll see you, Tommy. Take care.
So by the same token, I see that there's a commercial lately that they have, or it wasn't a commercial, it's on the news actually, that they've come out with new Alzheimer's drugs that are helping to some degree for people in the earliest stages of Alzheimer's. So we're on a cusp of getting longer term solutions for those unfortunate people. So
yeah, that's
Well, as long as I can remember the password is kerfuffle, I'm okay.
as long as you can remember the password. Right. But no, I don't know about retirement, but I do know, I do know that, of course, that I have a great, I have a great lot of fun in the now, and that's what I'm going to worry about,
I figure I'm not going to ever retire, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Even if I retire from my main job, I'm going to do something else. Reading books, doing adventures, whatever. There's going to always be something I'm doing.
Sure. And I mean, there's ample there's ample evidence to show that keeping occupied is the best way to stave off depression and memory loss and that sort of thing, and that's why I am keeping on. I mean, people are like, "Wow, man, do you really play that much Dungeons and Dragons?" You're damn right I do. You're damn right I do.
As God intended.
4d6 discard lowest. It's halflings, gnomes, dwarves, humans, elves, half orcs, and half elves, and it's 11
classes. It's not just strictly D&D, though. I mean, you're an equal opportunity RPGer.
I am, but I mean, if you said, look, you've got to give up all of your role playing games except for one, I'd be like, okay, leave me the D&D stuff.
Well, it's the original. You can't help it. I get it.
I mean, and it's not an impulsive thing. And a lot of people like say, yeah, I guess nostalgia, and it's not nostalgia. All right, I am not trying to recapture something that I had when I was a kid. And if that was the case, I would use one of those Intellius searches and track down Tommy Miner and get my sister and just those two people on Roll20 and play Keep on the Borderlands without any other rule books with them. It's not nostalgia. It's here and now for me. So, and I know you're not saying nostalgia. Don't get me wrong, but
don't be on LinkedIn. Come on, LinkedIn.
It grates on me. It grates on me when people say, "Oh, it's a nostalgia trip." Yeah, or yeah, you're, I have played years of 3rd and 3.5. All right.
Well, see, the people that are saying nostalgia are the ones that have not played and stuck with it to appreciate the fact that it's something that you've connected with versus being just a pass-through hobby.
Yeah. I mean,
you empathize, and there's that connection. So
this is when you say nostalgia to me, it kind of conjures up images of, just people going to like a 50s themed diner, where the waiters are dressed like Buddy Holly and the waitresses are dressed like Sandra Dee, and they just blast like 10 Chubby Checker songs at you at top volume until you're done with your own.
I'm going to put a real life thing on this. Last year, we went to a soccer tournament for one of our kids, and they had brought back the big boy restaurants. Mm-hmm. And they hadn't been around for like 30 plus years or whatever. And they brought them back. And so on our way back, we found one and we went to it. And it was such a disappointment because it completely and totally missed the way the big boys restaurants were. They had all this like memorabilia and everything else like that, but it was not like the restaurants were. It was an echo of a mockery almost of the I want to say, the toys and the action figures and that kind of thing that was the restaurant chain, but the recipes and the menus and the entire atmosphere was not the same. So the experience was just completely and totally a turn off of it. So,
right. Well, and that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh
no.
Whenever you get older and you either go to a restaurant that you remember from when you were a kid, or you pick up and play an old game you used to play when you were a kid, whether it's role playing game or board game or card game, whatever. There is a little bit of nostalgia there that drives you to do it. But nostalgia is not the main driving force why so many people continue to play first edition D&D or Mold Bay Basic Expert D&D. And it's because, number one, those are easy games to play. They're easy to pick up and play. And two, it's those games that introduced our generation to our best friends. That continues to this day. Complete strangers meet over first edition D&D, and by the end of the adventure, you've got inside jokes, and it's like you grew up together. It is the ultimate human networking experience, and I believe that's what drives people continuing to play first edition.
No, I think there's definitely something to that. And, a friend of mine whom I have nothing the greatest affection for, back in the early 2000s, he was like, "Nah, man, it's all World of Warcraft now. It's like World of Warcraft is D&D night now, and you ought to come and play." And and he was speaking the virtues of World of Warcraft and that sort of thing. And I just said, you know what? If I'm like Charlton Heston at the end of Omega Man, it's just me up in my apartment, and all the WoW fans are walking around at night saying, "Come out, Bill, come out," trying to get me to play WoW. Then that's how it'll be. I'm the analog man, and that's, well, you know what? I would dare say that WoW is probably it's stuck in its core. But I like, nobody comes to me and says, and like preaches the gospel of WoW. And lots of people, not just my friend, lots of people did back in the day, and they all had the same refrain: "You ought to come and play WoW. It's what D&D used to be. It's evolved now. Sure, it's a different rules, but it's the same vibe, and you can game with your friends anytime." Well, I have a group of people on Monday nights, 11 of us. I have friends here in Florida. I have friends up the coast, up the East Coast. I have friends in the center of the country, and I have friends on the West Coast. And speaking strictly for myself, 11 people wouldn't game with me for almost a decade if I was doing something wrong or it was unfun. So I kind of feel like I kind of feel like I'm doing something right, that I don't have the mob knocking on my door asking if I would like to discuss their Lord and Savior Blizzard's World of Warcraft. And that's just how it.
I think you've got a hobby empathy connection there.
Well,
Sure.
the handful of times that I played WoW, this guy was trying to sell me on it. It was a buddy of mine. He was trying to sell me on it. And he was like, "Dude, you can literally do anything. You can do anything." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "What do you want to be?" And I was like, What's the smallest race in stature?" And he was like, "Oh, it's the gnomes or whatever." And I went, "Oh, okay, that's what I want to be." And he said, "Okay, what do you want to do?" And I said, I want to fish. "Can you fish in this game?" And he said, "Oh yeah, you can pull up treasures." And I was like, "Cool, that's what I want to do. I just want to fish." And he was like, "Okay, but then you can go." And I was like, No, you're missing what I'm saying. I just want to fish." And I never adventured. I never even bought clothes for my little gnome dude. It was just him and his little loincloth.
So he's grabbing leaves and clothing himself, apparently.
If bedazzling the loincloth would have been an option, I would have done that. But it was just, and other players, and my player name was Crazy Todd. And so everybody knew Crazy Todd, because if you were running alongside of a river or whatever and there was a little gnome wearing a loincloth fishing, well, you knew who that was.
Hey, Todd. At what stage of your life did you start bedazzling everything?
Well, that's the bedazzling is a callback to the rhinestone pants.
And at what point did that start?
Oh, the rhinestone pants? Oh, that was back when I was 10, 11 years old. Crash. One of the
So you're going with the Elvis craze, is that it?
Elvis was, I view Elvis as an amateur of bedazzling and rhinestoning. He needed to take it up a notch.
Ooh, you're going to have some haters on the channel. There are some Elvis fans that are die hard. You don't diss the king.
I've got a fever, and the only cure is more rhinestone.
Oh, that's wonderful. We're putting Todd on the couch. Wave of Mutilation says, yeah, Todd had Todd's first D&D session, rejected venturing, embrace the Bombadil Sigma grind. That's how you do that. Oh my goodness. Well, I think we're probably going to wrap up. We've been going for a little bit here, guys, and it's getting late, and I got a few things I got to do tomorrow. So we'll go ahead and wrap up here. We'll be back tomorrow night, and we'll do some serious goofing off and look deeply at Unearthed Arcana. The truly usable parts of Unearthed Arcana are coming up. So thank you for having patience and sticking with us. And then on Friday night, we will be back on Friday night to play some Gamma World with these two crazy kids and a couple of other folks. We'll be back playing Gamma World on Friday night, and then we'll just start this entire insane mess up again on Monday. And I'm hoping next week we will be able to get Tracy Lesh on the show on next Thursday's show.
Ooh, fun.
But
Don't forget to do your thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that. Because, of course, as the crab has been politely pointing where you can support the show on Patreon, on Subscribestar. You can support us through PayPal Direct, or you can buy us a coffee. And isn't that nice? And there are folks who've chosen to do that. And so let me say an extra special thanks, which, by the way, you don't get this in Morris the Nerd's voice. You'd have to outbid. I was bid $2 to never do Morris the Nerd again. So if you want to hear it, you're going to have to super chat me more than $2.
Well, you weren't super chatted to do the Thurston Howell voice though, so that voice is still available.
No, I don't. I don't do it with this now. So
don't distract him. He has to finish her.
Yeah. So I have to wrap up. I'll give you a heartbeat. I'll give you a moment. If anybody wants to super chat $3 or more to hear this in Morris the Nerd's voice, I'll bring it. But I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it.
Dig deep into your hearts and your wallet. You've got $3. Let's do this.
I'm not. I'm not.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Or I'm coming to your house and bedazzling your underwear. One of the two things is happening. All right. Well, your heart.
Careful what you threat, Todd.
They might not even want to hear it. So, let me say thanks to those who support the show and literally help keep the lights on around here sometimes, guys. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So extra special thanks. Wait a minute. We've got a comment there. Morris. That is my middle name. So there, I doxed myself a little bit more than I already have. So here we go. Extra special thanks to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien X247, or is that Damien times 247? I need some clarification there. James F. Keck, William Smith, The Dungeon Minister, love you, Padre, Manny Wall, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob, Jeremy Roll, Bo Ganora, Mikey Mank, Sky Hernstrom, Pete Sullivan, the DM's Council, and Baron Von Headbanger. Thank you all so very, very much for coming out, for sticking it around, and listening to me ramble. And thank you, of course, as always, to a couple of folks who decided to pop in tonight, Sapphire and Todd. So I will see you guys all tomorrow night, and they will see you on Friday night when we sit down to play some classic Gamma World. Have an absolutely lovely evening, everyone, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.